You're good.
Hello, welcome back to Meaningful Conversations with Beata. I'm Beata Seweryn-Reid, your host, coach, and speaker. Today, it's episode 52. I'm so excited, and I have wonderful badass icon lady with me, which you might know. What you might know, I hear some background. You might know her name is Erin Baer. And Erin is, well, first of all, founder of the organization Beaten to Badass, also empowerment coach, published author, which we're gonna talk from Beaten to Badass is her book. And she's just a wonderful person that loves to support others. Hey, this is gonna be probably more difficult for me to interview her than her to be interviewed, because this domestic violence and abuse are still the subjects that we are afraid to go into and ask directly. Really, did it happen? Like how? Oh my gosh. So Erin, as a survivor of domestic violence and a sexual assault, beaten, abandoned, and broken, you are today a voice to all women that are silenced by their abusers. And looking at you right now, I'm asking, and actually I did this put these questions in different group where I said, if you see person like me, what do you think? Oh, they say strong, badass, yes. And it's what I see when I look at you. So the question is, how educated, smart, strong, young girl could go through so much of violence? And the question from actually one of our audience was how she didn't see the red flags. And this is a catchy thing, but from your own experience, if you can bring the picture, how educated, smart, intelligent, successful lady didn't see the red flags and what was about?
Sure. So I was 25 years old when I completed my master's degree from Avila University in Kansas City, Missouri, and I wanted to be in the golf industry. I decided that I needed to get out of Missouri and I needed to spread my wings. I needed to take whatever job was in the golf industry in a different state. And so I was actually offered a job here in Colorado for the PGA, and I had just finished my master's degree, and I basically got a job offer. I drove out here and started my job. And one of the biggest organized events that I put on was very successful. It was Women in Golf Day, and I had just broken up with this guy that was obviously no good for me. And there was a guy there that was volunteering to get some credits that he needed for his apprenticeship for the PGA. And I found him charming, I found him handsome, and I just was like, wow, and he knew what to say, how to say it, how to treat me, right? And I fell for him, I wasn't falling in love with him or anything, but I fell for him. I wanted a real life adult relationship. I had a career, I was an adult, and I was on my own, but I've always been on my own. If you read my book, I was on my own since I was 14, but I just wanted someone to love me. I wanted to be good enough for somebody. And he was a charmer, and he charmed the socks off me. And it wasn't long before the manipulation started. He moved into my apartment without my permission within 2 weeks of us dating. And I was just kind of stunned. I was like, what? We didn't even talk about this. You're in my apartment. Now you're living here. And he threatened me. He threatened, he was like, well, if I can't live here, then we can't be together, and, you're somebody that I love. And if you don't love me, then you're going to tell me to go. But I didn't love him, but I was so afraid to lose an adult relationship that I let him stay. And soon after that, the abuse happened, the manipulation got worse, the gaslighting, the separation from friends and family. I mean, I was in Colorado all by myself. I had no family here. I had just moved here. So I was just establishing friendships with people. And it all came crashing down literally, 5 months into it. But the thing is like 5 months into it, sure, but the beatings were happening, the rape was happening, the assault was happening, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought, well, this is what I deserve, because I, was taught at a very young age that I wasn't good enough. But if this guy loved me, then surely this is what I deserved, and this is how it's supposed to be. I never really had a role model to teach me what a relationship was supposed to be like, and it wasn't until I had someone I worked for in January of 2009 have me do some research. She had me do some research of red flags of domestic violence, because she had been in a very, very abusive relationship several years before, where, the guy ended up going to jail, I think, or something. And she wanted me to research it for a talk that she was going to do. So I did. And my boyfriend at the time was off to work, and I sat at my desk, and it was red flags. She wanted me to look up the red flags. And I was like, okay, no problem. And as I was going through the red flags, I started checking them off one by one. I was like, how did I not know this? I'm a smart woman. I'm smart, I'm independent, I'm strong. And how did I not see the flags? And you don't see the flags, because the abuser, the monster, is so good at tearing you down slowly, to where when you realize you're stuck in that abusive relationship, you're just like, oh my gosh, how did then you start blaming yourself, and you start saying, wow, I must not be smart enough, and I surely deserve this. And it's just a cycle that goes in your mind, and you're just like, I can't believe I didn't see this. But how are you supposed to, when it was a very well thought out plan by the abuser? It was very done in a particular way. And so he executed it perfectly. He charmed me. He made me his own. He began to isolate me from friends and family. He began to tear me down and tell me I couldn't wear my hair a certain way, or I couldn't wear something a certain way, or I wasn't allowed to go out, or I wasn't allowed to do this, I wasn't allowed to do that. And then, if you love me, then you'll pay for this bill, and you'll pay for that bill. You'll take care of me. So he executed his plan perfectly to a T. And so as a smart, independent woman, when you find yourself in that, you're like, well, maybe I'm not so smart. Maybe I'm not so independent. Maybe I do need this guy. And, it is hard. So it's not as black as white as everybody thinks it is, because when you find yourself in that situation, first you're stunned, and then you're in denial, until I had that moment where I was like, I had the moment, aha, I woke up and I snapped and I kicked him out. But before that, it's you're blindsided.
Before we go there, I want to highlight something what you said, and when I was reading your book and listening to your other interviews, that do you think that it's at least what I see with my clients, and partially in me, even I'd never went through abuse like you did, that when you are a child and you were bullied like hardly, oh my gosh, so, and other stuff happens when you are just a child, and you said you did not have these role models, I believe that the tolerance for this pain, inner pain or physical pain, is much higher than for average person. So do you think that if someone went through some kind of violence, abuse as a child, later on when picking up partners can see the red flags, because it's just what it was before? I just can't go with my life, and it's what it is.
Yeah, you go with what's familiar. You go with how you've been taught that you're supposed to be treated, and it takes somebody else looking into your life to say, hey, that's not how it's supposed to be. But you don't know any better. I mean, I was bullied, I was teased, I was tormented, I was abandoned. So to me, I thought I wasn't good enough. So whatever I could get or whatever type of love I could attract, then that's what I deserved. I didn't think there was any other way. I
Right.
wasn't educated that there was any other way.
Right. Um, Before I ask you another question, I want to say hi to all. April, Renee, two awesome ladies. Thank you, April. We love you. We have Paul with us, Nancy, Agnieszka, Audrey, and Garlene. Hi, my love. Garlene is saying, hi, Erin, you are speaking on a very important topic. And as a psychologist in India, she's from India, I'm sure many don't come out with it. It's really necessary to speak. And yes, thank you so much and please spread this message with others. So I want to go back to this specific word that you said about role models, because when I heard you on some webinar, I guess with Marta, you said something, and I have it. You said you can look at role models for how to be or for how not to be. It just like struck me like, OMG, I need this lady on my show, because I have many clients that they are in their 50s, even ladies, and deep down, they are still this little girl that were looking at their parents that actually were never the good role models for them. So how about you? How did you decide that this person, okay, I can still love them because they are my parents, but they are not the ones that I should follow?
Sure. So I actually, my mom and I, we never really got along. My dad and I, we were inseparable. And so I had two different worlds that I was living in. I was during school year, I was living with my mom. During the summer, I was living with my father in California. And so I really quickly began to attach myself to certain people in my life in California. I'm a golfer. My dad's a golfer. It's a bond that we share. And the people that came into my life through the golf world taught me valuable lessons. And I was like, wait a minute, these all make sense. These fall into alignment with how I feel that the world should be, and the kindness and the things that I feel like I'm good at. So, strength and perseverance and pride and integrity and the different things I was taught in California really allowed me to look at those people as true guiding angels in my life and say, okay, these are the types of roles of people I need to follow. These are the role models that I need to look up to. Whereas when I was home, and being abandoned and bullied and all that, I was like, that's just not how I feel the world should be. So I had my good role models and I had my bad role models. And I was really able to decipher what was good and what was bad. It's, you listen to your gut. If something tells you something's not right, it's not right. You really have to dive into your gut and what's good and bad. We all do. It's an instinct nature that we have within all of us. And, for a long time, I always told myself I didn't want to be a mom because I didn't want to be like my mom. She wasn't the best mom. And for a long time, I blamed her. And it wasn't until I started writing my book that I was like, wait a minute, my mom taught me very valuable lessons. And she's actually the one I talk about most in my book, which is interesting because her and I don't have a special bond, but she taught me the way she knew how. And I think that's what we need to do is we need to look at our role models, whether good or bad, to say they've done the best that they can with what they have, because they only know what they know, right? And so we have to give credit where credit is due. And I think if you take 100% responsibility, even if it wasn't for, even if you're not the one to blame, you take 100% responsibility, then you can change it. And you can determine what's good and what's bad and what role models you should follow and which ones you should look at and say, no, I don't want to follow that role model because that's not in alignment with me and that's not healthy or good for me. And that's okay to have. It's good to have good and bad role models. I really do believe that.
I totally agree. And well, it's good to have both, because how we know if we have only one? Yes, like the same with the violence. It's all what you experience. You don't know that there is someone who can really love you without all these manipulations. So I love that. And I want every lady or man who is listening to that really think now, did I do the work? Because like, oh my God, Erin said that she is not blaming, she's not pointing at her mom or even the abuser, you said in your book, because she took the ownership for what happened. And I love what you just said, that we all did our best with what we know at a certain time. I love it. And this goes to what another favorite quote of yours, when you say that your circumstances don't define you. Yes.
Yes.
And you can, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, you can finish that. And ladies, please ask questions if you have any. I see a lot of ladies here watching us. So there is Shell, Marta, hi. So please ask questions. We have this badass lady here. Learn from her.
Yes. So the quote that, is just ingrained in me, and I didn't realize, but it was born about 3 years ago, before I even wrote my book. And it's your circumstances don't define you. You are a badass. You just have to get back up. You can be your own hero. I think as women, we wait too long to think that somebody is supposed to save us. Someone on a white horse in a knight in shining armor is supposed to come and rescue us, and everything's going to be okay. And after the abuse, I realized that I had to save myself, because nobody was coming. No prince, no job, no nothing, no type of relationship was ever going to save me unless I had a relationship with myself, and I had to become my own hero. And I think that's the misconception. We think someone's supposed to be responsible for ourselves and save us, but we need to be responsible for ourselves. And we need to understand that just because we had it rough doesn't mean it has to stay that way. And that's where your circumstances don't define you, and you are a badass. You just have to get back up, because we all get knocked down, we all get beaten down, but you can sure, take that one step.
I love that. I say often, your current situation is not your final destination if you decide so, because there must be a decision behind it. And the next question would be, can you do it on your own?
Absolutely. I did it on my own. I kicked out my abuser. It was a scary, scary moment, because when people are in abusive situations, when they decide to leave, that's usually when the worst beating happens, or they get killed. And I got beat that day. I got beat for the final time that day. But the little girl inside me was like, this is not the way life is supposed to be. And I love you, so I'm going to stand up for both of us. And we're kicking this monster out. And we kicked him out. And, that was the beginning of my new life. That was the beginning of saying, I am enough, and I don't deserve these things, because the little girl in me already knew it, right? It was just me as an adult that thought I had to stay that little girl, or be told how to be treated, or told how to do things. And we all know how we're supposed to be and what we deserve. We just have to finally have that conversation with our inner child and say, okay, I got this. Like, I'm a badass, and you just got to take that one step. And it was a scary, scary road, but you can do it on your own, because ultimately you're always on your own. We have our tribes, we have our girlfriends, we have our supporters, and our encouragers, but you go to bed at night with yourself and your thoughts and your heart and your soul. And that's where you have to stay true. And if you don't have that relationship with yourself, then the relationships are going to fall apart around you. And ultimately you will be alone. So I think, I do. I think you can do it alone, because I did it alone. And I'm grateful for those moments. I'm grateful for the darkness, because that's when I could see the light.
Wow, I love it. But okay, and you are a badass. But how about ladies that feel like I think humiliation is the first thing, especially like we just were talking, the successful woman, the one, the intelligent, the one educated, and they, for the outside world, they are these heroes, like, oh my gosh, I wish to have her life. But behind the closed doors, they are in the corner, small, feeling small, not enough. So where they could go, how they can start that process? Because I believe it's a process, not one day change.
Absolutely. You could start journaling. And if you're not safe to do so, then reach out to a friend in private and have a conversation and say, hey, I really need your advice here. I need to talk to you and I need to not feel judged. And I need you to have this conversation with me in confidentiality, because that's the most important thing. You know, if they do feel that, you know, my whole world is perfect on the outside, but really inside, behind closed doors, it's not safe and it's not what you see on the outside. It's completely a cover up. I think you need to have that conversation with a close friend, or you need to reach out to an authority, whether it's a police officer or if it's a organization that helps those impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault, or they reach out to you. If they know you, I know that if they were to have a conversation, you would say, okay, I'm here. How can I help? And then you could direct them to where they need to go. I think you have to find somebody you trust, and then you need to find the courage to let your voice speak, because we all need to understand that our story matters, and we are important, and we are enough, and we don't deserve to be beaten down, regardless of what is being, regardless of how you're being beaten down. You don't deserve it. And so reaching out to somebody that you trust is the first step.
All right. I'm still gonna dwell on, you are aware of it. So I have to say from my personal experience, because, well, it never happened to me what you went through, but I had one, I call it accident because it was so shocking. Long time ago, I was still young, and I started dating this guy, and we were at the party, and there was this conversation, and we disagree on something. And I thought that we are having this conversation, like we are, okay, not agreeing on something, but it was not a fight, just arguing, like, okay, I think we should do this. And out of nowhere, I've got hit in my stomach. So I never was, I was also kind of a badass since I was a little. So, but at this moment, I was like, what just happened? I stand there and I didn't know what to do. Of course, my little girl came back and I said, what the heck you just did? But I always thought that I will punch back. I did not. I was standing there and feeling what just happened. So what about these ladies that they are so confused, they lost their identity, maybe they are for a longer time, and they feel ashamed. I did not tell anyone about that. I was ashamed, not that he did it to me, that I allowed to it, that I did not see, we were talking about the signs. It was, of course, the last time we ever talked, but for other women, it's not that easy. They are in this relationship, they are ashamed to go and reach out for help. Is there any other way, or you have to go out, you have to take action?
So I have to commend you because you ended that relationship immediately after. But when you first get hit, you're in shock. You're like, that did not just happen. Did that really just happen? Yeah. You start to be like, no, I made it up. Surely he didn't just hit me. You know, it's a shock. And you're just like, I don't even know what to do. Do I punch back? Do I fight? Do I run? What do I do? You freeze because nobody has ever educated on, you know, we don't get the education of if somebody hits you, you hit back, or you do this, or you say this. We're not educated on that because we never think it's going to happen to us. So when it does happen, you're in complete shock. And I think you either have a conversation with that person, say, I'm sorry, you just abused me. You just hit me. Why? Right? Or you say, sorry, but I gotta go. Like there's no second chance. Like it needs to end, because if they've hit you once, they're more than likely going to hit you again, because people don't just go around hitting people. So I think for those ladies, you know, you do feel ashamed because you feel that you allowed it to happen, yet there was no reason for you to think that you allowed it to happen. That was the choice of the abuser or the choice of the monster. They chose to take action physically and abuse or hit you. And that's not okay. So either you say what you just did is wrong, or there's no words and you walk away and you call somebody and say, hey, can you come pick me up? Or, hey, I need a place to crash. I was just hit, or I was just abused, or whatever it may be. And the best thing you can do is speak the truth, because that's courageous. That's being vulnerable. That's not being you shouldn't feel embarrassed. You shouldn't feel ashamed. You shouldn't feel guilty or any of those emotions. You should feel very strong that you're like, whoa, this just happened, but I don't deserve that. And by speaking up and being vulnerable, you're being courageous and you're taking your life into your own hands to move forward in the direction that you deserve.
I love what you just said, taking your life in your own hands and taking the power back, because you have this power all the way since you are just that big in your mom's belly. And I have a question, actually it's from my friend. She said, how do you know that I'm with someone who is just mean, which I don't like even this just mean, and how do you know the difference between someone who is mean and someone who is abuser?
So
do you wait for the punch or
no?
Yeah.
No. So there's several different types of abuse. A lot of people, think domestic violence is physical violence, and usually in the case of violence it is. However, domestic violence and domestic abuse are one and the same. There's sexual assault, there is coercion, there's gaslighting, there's manipulation, there is mental and emotional abuse. If somebody is mean and putting you down and telling you what you deserve and what you don't deserve, and they're never supportive, I'm sorry, honey, but let me be the first one to tell you, you're being abused and you need to leave, because you do not deserve any type of abusive treatment or put down or garbage from anybody. You deserve to be loved and cherished and appreciated and, courted correctly. Love, it needs to be love, and putting people down and bullying them or telling them they're not pretty enough or they're not skinny enough or whatever it may be, that's not okay. And that's abuse.
Wow, thank you so very much. I have one more question from Garlene. What one tip would you practice to progress daily, Erin, after the past follies?
Say that again, the last part.
It's Follies. Follies. After the past follies. Maybe it's a miss. Garlene, what did you mean? We don't know that word, I guess.
I'm looking at the comments.
Darlene, what did you mean?
Let me look at the comments.
It's almost one of Garlene. It's Sandra Baker. Hi.
After the past follies. Oh, mistakes. What did I learn after the past mistakes?
I would say so. Okay. Maybe she's not with us anymore.
So mistakes are mistakes. We all make them. And I really, truly believe if we take the ownership, then we can change it. We just need to learn from our mistakes. We don't want to make the same mistake over and over again. So identifying that you made a mistake is the first step. So she just said,
yes, she said.
Okay. Yeah. So one tip about, so I made a mistake. Okay. So I did pick that guy. I didn't know he was going to be abusive. I had no idea. So therefore I made an uneducated decision to get into a relationship with a monster. And I was only in that relationship for about 7 months, but 7 months too long. And when I did finally stand up and kick him out, I vowed to myself that I would never be abused again by a man, even if that meant that I was going to be alone, because my life mattered. And I know that I could love myself better than anybody if it meant I had to do without, because I don't believe that abuse should be a settlement for anybody, and I think you need to write out what you do deserve. And counseling helped me tremendously, because I went into counseling, both individual and group, and they really helped educate me on what I deserve and what I don't deserve. They gave me materials and they talked through to me and really dug into my past about why I thought it was okay to be abused and why didn't I leave the first time I got hit. But like I said, you're in shock when you get hit. And so you don't think it's going to happen again. And then there's apologies and roses and I'll never do it again. I love you. All the bullshit, let's be real. And it took standing up for myself and getting the help that I needed and saying, you know what, I'm not sure what I deserve, but I know I don't deserve this.
I love that. Wow. Did you hear it, ladies? I'm not sure what I deserve, but I for sure don't deserve that. This should be on everyone's laptop. Like when you open it, it should be, because it's not just with people. It can be with jobs, yes, with friends. I mean, not only with partners. Can be with friends, family. If you don't deserve how they treat you, you need to treat yourself better.
Yes.
I love that. Garlene is saying thank you, love. Martha is here, Martha Spirk, and thank you. Well, my really last question. I mean, almost.
You're good.
So I am, yes, you are a badass. So tell me how this badass lady could move on with the inner work, because I think that you have wonderful relationship with your husband right now.
I do.
And looking at my friends, some customers, it's very hard for them to move on. Even they do the work, they say they did the work, it start new relationship and trust that it won't happen again. I believe it starts with you, with your standards. What would you say?
I do agree. So I made a lot of mistakes in my dating world. And here's the thing. So let's talk about sex for a minute. I believe that a lot of women think that they have to sleep with a guy in order for a guy to love them. And I will be really open and honest right now. When I met my husband, we vowed to not cross that line until we loved each other, because we wanted to fall in love with each other's soul and who we were as a person, to make sure that that was the right step to really become one and intimate with one another. And you have to set the boundaries. You know, my husband and I set the boundaries. We didn't kiss on the first date, because that always just went from one thing to another. It became a physical. We wanted to have an emotional and intellectual and a soul connection. And I think you have to put boundaries in place for yourself and say, you know what? The right man will be the right man when they respect my boundaries. And my husband respected my boundaries. And I was honest with him. I was definitely afraid to get into another relationship, because I was waiting for the next shoe to drop. When's he going to hit me? When's he going to abuse me? When's he going to say I'm not good enough? And I was completely and openly honest with him. I was going through counseling for the abuse that I endured. I was just finishing up the court case when I met him. I should not have been going into a relationship, but I did. And luckily it all worked out. However, I was vulnerable and I said, look, I don't know if you're going to want to be with me after I tell you what I'm going to tell you, but I need you to know my past. And I had those tough conversations, and he was patient and he was loving and he was kind and compassionate, and he respected every boundary I had. And I think that's the biggest thing. We need to set boundaries. And if it pushes people away, then those are the people that are not supposed to be in your life or on your journey with you. Those boundaries are in place for a reason. And that reason is to protect you and who you are.
I love it. And I think we will leave it there, because it's so important. The final question is how people can get in touch with you to find out about what you do, about your organization and your book.
Absolutely. So they can find me on Facebook as Erin Baer, or Beaten to Badass, all spelled out, on Facebook, and beatenabadass.com. So my website has all my information on it, my contact information, my book is on there, my campaign, all of it. It's on the website.
Erin is doing great things. Like when you go and listen to a couple of her interviews, you will like, oh my gosh, like how is it possible? But if she could, you can too. So with this, Erin, thank you so very much for, first of all, for who you are and how you spread your happiness with other ladies and other people after all what you went through, plus for being here, because it's an honor to have you as a guest.
Oh, it's my honor and my pleasure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I admire all the work that you do. You are one incredible badass yourself, and you need to celebrate that for sure.
Thank you so much. And to all badass ladies up there, please follow your desires, set your truth, and never step back from it. Give yourself permission to be you and to have a voice. Without the voice, no one can hear you and help you.
I agree.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.